Folks, the United States of America just put a fist through the wall in Tehran. And I have to tell you, it is about time. American warplanes, American muscle, sent a message to the Islamic Republic of Iran last night that even the mullahs, even those turbaned lunatics sitting in their bunkers, could not misread. You attack a cargo ship trying to transit the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical waterways on the face of this earth, through which something like a fifth of the world's oil flows every single day, and you are going to hear from us. You are going to hear from us loud. Iran seized that ship, attacked it, blocked it from leaving, and the United States of America responded with strikes. Decisive, swift military strikes. Beautiful. Now, while all of that is happening, while we've got American jets in the skies over Iran, back here at home, the Democrat Party is busy nominating socialists and Islamic radicals to run for Congress in New York. The Supreme Court just had to explain to the left that the word temporary means temporary. And the new socialist mayor of New York City is out there promising to protect Haitian migrants from federal law. It's just another week in the greatest country on God's green earth. My friends, we have got a lot to get through today. I'm Rick LeBow. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. All right, so let's talk about Iran. Because this is big, folks. This is a very big deal, and I want to make sure we give it the weight it deserves. Iran, earlier this week, attacked a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz, a civilian cargo ship, just trying to leave, trying to get out of the Persian Gulf through the only exit that exists, that narrow little throat of water between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. And the Iranians, in their infinite wisdom, decided to seize it, attack it, block it. Now, Iran does not do this sort of thing by accident. I want to be very clear about that. The mullahs in Tehran, they're not confused. They're not stumbling around. They knew exactly what they were doing. They do this. They harass shipping, they mine the waters, they seize tankers when they want to send a message, when they want to flex. When they think they can get away with it, and for a long time, they could. For 4 years, under the previous management of the executive branch, they absolutely could. Every time Iran did something provocative, the response from Washington was a strongly worded statement, consultations with our European partners, deep concern from the State Department, maybe a call to the UN Security Council. The Iranians weren't scared. They were laughing. You know what the Iranian government's official state motto basically amounts to? Death to America. That's it. That's the bumper sticker. There is no diplomatic nuance to unpack there, my friends. They mean it. They've been chanting it in the streets of Tehran for going on 50 years. They fund Hezbollah. They fund Hamas. They fund every proxy militia that shoots at American soldiers in the Middle East. This is not a regime that is misunderstood. This is a regime that wants us dead and says so proudly. So what do you do with a regime like that? Well, you do what Ronald Reagan did. You do what Donald Trump did the first time around when he sent a Hellfire missile through the windshield of Qasem Soleimani's car at Baghdad airport. You project strength. You make them calculate that the cost of poking the American bear is simply too high. And that is exactly what just happened. U.S. Central Command launched strikes against Iran in response to the cargo ship attack. A powerful response is how they described it. Good. I love that phrase. Powerful response. That should be America's foreign policy doctrine in 3 words. Now, I want to address something because I know it's already happening. I know the drive-by media is already wringing their hands. I know the Senate has been doing its little congressional theater act. There was a war powers vote this week, very dramatic, very serious looking, ultimately meaning approximately nothing. And I know the critics are saying, "Oh, Rick, are we going to start another war? Is this escalation?" Let me explain something to you. And I say this with the full weight of whatever geopolitical wisdom the Almighty saw fit to bless me with, which is considerable. There's a difference between starting a war and responding to an act of aggression. Iran attacked a ship. We struck back. That is not escalation. That is deterrence. That is the world understanding that there are consequences for messing with commerce and freedom of navigation and American interests. The people who call that escalation are the same people who thought the best way to handle Iran was to give them $150 billion and a glide path to a nuclear weapon. Remember that? Remember the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. Oh, what a magnificent diplomatic achievement that was. We gave them the money. We gave them the legitimacy. And they used the breathing room to accelerate their missile programs and tighten their grip on Yemen and Lebanon and everywhere else. And now, while J.D. Vance is actually trying to negotiate a real deal where Iran doesn't get a nuke and America doesn't get humiliated, Iran goes and attacks a cargo ship. What does that tell you? It tells you there are factions within that regime that do not want a deal. There are hardliners in Tehran who would rather go to war with America than sign away their nuclear ambitions, and they're willing to blow up negotiations, literally, to prevent it, which is why the strikes matter, which is why the response had to be hard and had to be fast. You have to demonstrate to the people inside Iran who are willing to negotiate that the alternative to a deal isn't just sanctions. The alternative is American ordnance on your military infrastructure. Let me give you an analogy here. You know how when you're dealing with a bad faith negotiating partner, could be in business, could be a union dispute, could be anything, and the only way to get them to the table in good faith is to make the cost of not being in good faith absolutely clear. That's what this is. Iran has to understand that stonewalling and still conducting attacks is not an available option. Pick one. You want to negotiate? Sit down and negotiate and stop blowing up ships. You want to fight? Well, we're ready for that too. And America, under this administration, is not bluffing. I also want to say this, because some of the libertarian adjacent crowd out there, some of the America first means stay home people, are going to say, Rick, why are we in the Persian Gulf at all? Why are we protecting shipping lanes for the whole world? And I understand the sentiment. I do. I'm not dismissing it. But here's the reality. The Strait of Hormuz is not some abstract concern. 20% of the world's oil moves through that channel. Energy prices in America, food prices in America, the cost of everything that gets shipped across an ocean, all of it is downstream of whether that waterway stays open. If Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz with impunity, your gas prices go up. Your grocery bill goes up. Every working American family pays the price. So this isn't charity. This isn't us playing global policeman for some abstract ideal. This is protecting the American economy. This is protecting the American consumer. And it required exactly the kind of spine we just showed. Don't doubt me on this one, folks. History will look back at this moment and see an administration that did not blink. All right, let's do the roundup, because we have got stories stacking up today like planes over O'Hare in a thunderstorm. First up, the Supreme Court, in a beautiful 6-3 ruling, struck down Hawaii's gun law. The case is Wolford v. Lopez, and it is a clean, direct win for the Second Amendment. Hawaii had a law restricting who could carry a firearm, and the court said, with the kind of judicial clarity that makes you want to stand up and applaud, no, that's not constitutional. Gone. Now, here's the part that really caught my attention. The dissent, written by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And look, I will say this charitably. Justice Jackson is not exactly what you'd call a Second Amendment enthusiast. Her dissent apparently leaned on what are called the Black Codes. For those who don't know, the Black Codes were post-Civil War laws in the South specifically designed to disarm freed Black Americans. They were instruments of oppression, full stop. Terrible, shameful chapter of American history. And the lawyer who won this case called using those laws as a constitutional precedent for disarming Americans today, he called it disgraceful. And you know what? He's right. You cannot cite laws that were designed to strip rights away from Black Americans as your legal authority for stripping rights away from Americans today. That is not a compelling argument. That is, shall we say, an own goal, a spectacular own goal. The Second Amendment means what it says. The court has now said so multiple times. Heller, Bruin, and now this. Hawaii doesn't like it. California doesn't like it. The entire West Coast wishes guns had never been invented. But the Constitution is not a menu where you pick the amendments you like and skip the ones you find inconvenient. 6-3. Done. Next. Now, the Democrat Party. Oh, my friends, where do I even begin? The socialist primary wave is now apparently a tsunami. New York City, where the new socialist mayor, who has the entire mainstream media positively swooning, his endorsed candidates swept a set of Democratic primaries this week. Multiple candidates. And what are we getting from the old guard? From Bella Pelosi, from Ilhan Omar? Stone cold silence. They are getting questions from reporters, and they are walking past like they cannot hear a word. But here's the thing. Here is the thing. The silence is actually more revealing than anything they could say. Because what are their options? If they condemn the socialist wins, they alienate the activist base of their party that is now clearly driving the energy. If they embrace it, they have to answer for what these people actually believe. So they say nothing. They are caught, completely caught. And President Trump, at the Faith and Freedom Coalition conference, called these New York Democrats, and I am quoting here, godless communists. And you know what? I look at the evidence, and I cannot find a compelling rebuttal to that characterization. These are not FDR Democrats. These are not JFK Democrats. These are people who make Bernie Sanders look like a Chamber of Commerce luncheon speaker. Meanwhile, and I love this, meanwhile, Congress is now absolutely discussing packing the Supreme Court. Representative Pramila Jayapal, one of the leading lights of the Socialist Caucus up there on the Hill, went on television and confirmed that Democrats are actively talking about expanding the court and implementing term limits. Why? Because the court keeps ruling in ways they don't like. The court said temporary means temporary, and they want to add 4 more justices. Let me explain what's actually happening here for those of you just tuning in. The Supreme Court ruled this week that temporary protected status, TPS, for Haitian and Syrian migrants could be ended by the Trump administration. Temporary protected status, the temporary program. That word is right there in the name. Congress created TPS to give migrants from disaster zones a short-term safe harbor, not a permanent residency backdoor that gets renewed indefinitely forever, generation after generation. The court looked at it and said, yeah, the Trump administration can end it, because it is, in fact, temporary. Democrats lost their minds. Court-packing talk immediately resurfaced, and the red mayor of Gotham up in New York City promised his city would protect Haitian and Syrian migrants and called the ruling something that we will not ever accept. Sir, you are the mayor of New York City. You do not get to reject Supreme Court rulings. That is not actually how this country works. I know that might be a slightly unfamiliar concept coming from a man who ran on a platform of nationalizing things and abolishing others, but the Supreme Court of the United States is not an advisory body that you can just shrug off when it disagrees with your immigration policy. And the left's move to pack the court should be seen for exactly what it is. It is the same instinct as every power-hungry movement in the history of the world that, when it cannot win through legitimate means, moves to seize the machinery of the system itself. They couldn't win on Obamacare, they tried to pack the court. They couldn't win on guns, they tried to pack the court. They couldn't win on immigration, they want to pack the court. At some point, my friends, you have to ask, what is it exactly that you believe in? Because it's starting to look like the only thing they truly believe in is winning by any means necessary. And finally, in a story I cannot let pass without comment, a Texas Democrat running for Senate, a fellow by the name of James Tallarico, went out and said that black churches have a deeper and more accurate understanding of Jesus than white churches. He actually said this out loud on purpose. Now, imagine, I want you to really use your imagination here. Imagine if a Republican candidate said white churches have a deeper understanding of Jesus than black churches. I want you to just sit with that for a moment. The media coverage would make the Capitol on January 6th look like a slow news day. There would be demands for resignations. There would be congressional hearings. There would be a CNN special report running on a loop for 6 weeks. But because Tallarico is a Democrat and he said the opposite thing, it'll get a story on Breitbart and then vanish into the ether. That is the double standard. That is the drive-by media deciding which statements about race are newsworthy based entirely on who made them, not what was said. Who said it? The soft bigotry of low expectations goes in every direction, folks. Every single direction. Folks, what a week. What a country. You know, some days I sit down in the Attila the Hun chair here in front of the golden EIP microphone, and I look at the day's news and I think to myself, with all due humility, which, as you know, is in somewhat short supply around here, I think, how lucky am I? How lucky are all of us? Because despite everything, despite the socialists winning primaries in New York, despite the Democrats wanting to pack the Supreme Court every time a ruling doesn't go their way, despite Iran and the mullahs and the Strait of Hormuz and all of it, despite every attempt by the left and the media and the international community to convince you that America is the problem, this country just launched military strikes against an adversary that attacked free shipping on the open seas. The Supreme Court held the line on the Second Amendment. And the Constitution, battered as it is still standing. America, at its core, is still a nation that knows what it believes in, still a nation that fights back. The drive-by media wants you demoralized. They want you to feel like the tide is coming in and there's nothing you can do about it. That's how they keep you from showing up. That's how they keep you from calling your congressman, from voting, from speaking up. As long as you feel beaten, they win without even having to beat you. But look at what we're seeing. The court is holding. The military is acting. People are starting to notice what the word socialist actually means when it walks into your city and runs it. These are not hopeless times. These are clarifying times. The American people are, as I have always maintained, the last adults in the room. Common sense hasn't died. They've just been trying very hard to legislate it out of existence. So keep your heads up, keep your eyes open, and keep listening, because we'll be right back here Monday, ready to do this all over again. I'm Rick LaBelle. This has been Rush Hour. Same time tomorrow, if they let us back on.